So my research topic, I chose to do modern day slavery, and that's otherwise known as like human trafficking. I guess it's kind of more just like a dramatic type of way to say human trafficking, I guess. Throughout this PowerPoint, I'm going to be showing you guys some of the research I did for our senior thesis, senior project. For my project, I decided to do a PR campaign using billboards or like ads, and you'll get to see those at the end of this PowerPoint, and I'm also going to just be talking about them. Okay, so yeah, like I said, that was just a little YouTube video that I found that pretty much just addressed the topic, gave it kind of like a nice overview, I guess. It's some things I'm going to be talking about, how like it does happen to anyone, and how it said it could be your sister, your mom, like anything like that. This video was from 2006, so some of the statistics that they said were a little outdated, such as like how many people were trafficked a year. In the video, it said 800,000 to 900,000 people are trafficked each year. And since then, right now, there has been about 600,000 to 800,000 people are trafficked. So obviously this number is decreasing, which is like really, really good, but it is still a high number. So this is my research question. When I was thinking about human trafficking, whenever I was first starting all this research, I wanted to know like how the victims are affected, what is being done, what can be done, how can we spread awareness and just help anybody that's involved in human trafficking. So all of that just kind of led me to my research question: how are human trafficking victims affected, and what is being to spread awareness? So the two disciplines that I used throughout my research were communications. That's how I learned about like the awareness that's being done. I also used my human development and family studies minor. That one, obviously, it looks at how the victims are affected. That's like psychologically, like physically, just all of that, just what's going on. All right, so modern day slavery. So what is it? Human trafficking is organized criminal activity in which human beings are treated as possessions to be controlled and exploited, as by being forced into prostitution or involuntary labor. So that was the definition I got off of the Merriam-Webster online. So human trafficking is not going to be solved by only using one discipline, which was why there's no doubt in my mind that this would benefit from the use of an interdisciplinary research approach. So this topic, I found it worked perfectly with Alan Repko's 4 common criteria, which is something we've all learned throughout pretty much the entire year or the past classes we've taken. It's a complex problem. It needs more than one discipline to help solve the issue. It has not been resolved by a single discipline, and it is still an unresolved societal need or issue. And then I also put Houston, Texas. because in Texas, that's where most of the cases are reported each year. So that's the city where it happens the most. Just a few statistics for y'all. In the United States alone, there's been 3,646 human trafficking cases reported as of June 30th, 2016. They do those like every kind of 6 months type thing, so I haven't gotten like December's, obviously. In Texas alone, there has been 307 cases reported this year, which is just 23 cases short of the number of cases that were reported in all of 2015 for Texas. So, like, it's already 2016, and we're already 23 cases away from being where we were last year, which is just insane. Like, it's June, or it was June when I got this information. So, I unfortunately think that, like, the cases have obviously passed that. This research I've gotten from the National Human Trafficking Resource Center. That's an awesome website, and, like, if anyone needs to know. Houston, Texas, that's where I said most of the cases were reported each year. And a lot of people, whenever I was like reading stuff about this, and I agree, they say that it's mostly because Houston is so close to ports, so like, like right off the coast right there, and because of its proximity to I-10. It's just its location. What is currently being done to try and like help all these victims? So, in the article that I read called Healthcare Providers Training Needs Related to Human Trafficking, Maximizing the Opportunity to Effectively Screen and Intervene, it talked about how healthcare providers are being trained to identify victims that come through their office. And I know you're kind of thinking like, oh, these victims will never see a doctor, whoever took them like doesn't want them to be caught. And this is true for the most part, but throughout all of my research that I've done, their victims will be taken to a doctor if their illness is severe enough to where it cannot be treated to wherever they're being held captive. And now I guess you're thinking probably like, well, why doesn't the victim just tell the doctor like, hey, this person is trafficking me, like I'm a victim, like please help. This doesn't always happen just because they're scared of their consequences. They don't want to make taker angry because they're scared of them, and they do have every right to be, it's a lot of like just psychological like mind games really that just messes with them, which is just really sad. I think this is another reason why it's just really important for like people like us, normal people, like we're students, we're not a doctor, we can't do that. We should probably like learn the signs of a victim. This is because like if we were in a meeting room one day and we saw a person and we noticed these signs, we could call the police. We could go to the front desk and tell the people and see what they think, and just we could do something just sitting there because like what if you looked on the news one day and you saw that like little girl that was in the doctor's office and she was found dead from human trafficking and all the things that happened to her when you were there, and you knew that like something kind of was a little off, but you didn't say anything. And that's because we didn't, we probably don't know all the signs. So they would just remain a victim and we couldn't help them. Related to that, I read a story where a man named Yanok Prom, he saw a doctor while he was a victim of human trafficking multiple times. And some of his doctors just flat out didn't see the signs. He was too scared himself to like tell the doctors like, hey, this is what's happening to me, like all of that. And then there were some doctors, which I thought was the most shocking, that were just corrupt, and they would kind of like save him or make him think they were saving him only to sell him back into another human trafficking ring so they could pocket the money, or they would just make him their slave by like hard labor and stuff. And this is just another example of why everyday people should know some of the signs. There needs to be just a little more awareness. This article also talked about how in Houston there's a nonprofit organization that focuses on raising awareness of human trafficking, and that is called Houston Rescue and Restore Coalition, or HRRC. This organization has two components of training, and it involves the acronym HERE, which stands for, the H is Human Trafficking and Health Professionals, E is Examine History, Examine Body, Examine Emotion, A is Ask Specific Questions, and R is Review Options, Refer, and Report. So this article that I found, it was honestly so great. It just showed me like what is Houston doing to try to combat the human trafficking. They're informing their healthcare providers. They're starting organizations that normal people can just go and join and like help out as well. Another one of my articles called "Child Human Trafficking Victims: Challenges for the Child Welfare System" talked about the Lutheran Immigrant Refugee Service, or LIRS, the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, which is USCCB, and the Girls Educational and Mentoring Services, so GMS, or kind of like GEMS. The LRS and USCCB helps to identify the victims, find foster care replacements, and complete research about child trafficking. And GEMS focuses solely on victims of sexual exploitation and provides them with counseling, court advocacy, and also provides training to other organizations in the same field, which is important. Like, I think that GEMS goes out and they train other organizations. Like, this is something that needs to happen more often, needs to be talked about more. So all of these were just things that are a mixture of finding out the effects on victims and what is being done to help them, and also shows like the type of outreach and awareness around our country. So can be done. So I already told you what is being done, excuse me. So pretty much what I did find that is being done is a huge step in the right direction compared to previous years. Like, it's getting a lot better, but obviously there's still a need for improvement, because human trafficking is slowly becoming a more prevalent issue each day throughout the United States. So we need more awareness, and when I say that, I mean because there's hardly any talk of human trafficking, and yet it happens every single day all over the world. Like, why is that? Why don't people want to talk about it? It's obvious that the more awareness this issue gets, the more lives that could be saved. Like, you might see it on like your local news. Like, if you're in a town from Houston where it's more prevalent, it happens and it gets caught more often. But like, why isn't it being shown on a national level where other people around the world like can see it? Like, there's so much stupid stuff on the news nationally that are like real networks like CNN or anything that talks about like the Kardashians. Like, why isn't there anything real like human trafficking that's actually happening to people, so that like more people know about it? And another thing is like education. So I talked about earlier how healthcare professionals are they're starting to be educated on the signs, what to do, and I've also read other articles where officers are getting this type of training, and like they want this type of training. They have been involved and like they've busted a human trafficking ring. They didn't know what to do because they've never been talked to about this. Like, they wanted that training. They know it's becoming an issue, and like I think it's great they took that. They were proactive about that and like really went and did that. But I think like I said earlier, normal people like us need to be like taught something as well. So I don't remember ever learning about human trafficking in school, like like high school. We might have touched on it, but that was it, just enough to be like, oh, here's like the definition, like anything. I think that education over human trafficking should start like very late middle school or sometime throughout high school. And I like think this age group is important, just because like I think the students will be mature enough to understand the reality of this problem. And like when they're young, they probably won't understand it. So like that's why I think like elementary age, like this kind of information would kind of be like wasted on them, or it might be inappropriate or kind of freak out. I'm not saying going into like graphic detail or anything. That could probably be inappropriate for school, obviously. But like teach some of the signs. Like I've been saying this entire time. Like, there's victims that are their age, that are in the high school age. Like maybe if they saw them out, obviously like a victim of human trafficking that's being held captive wouldn't be out at a party, but like if you just see someone out your age and you notice something is a little off, like if you knew the signs, you could actually help them. So honestly, all of this is really just about bringing more awareness. I kind of think maybe it wasn't taught when I was in school, because my teachers thought, oh, our small town isn't affected by human trafficking because like we're such a tiny town. But human trafficking's happened in Lubbock, and I consider Lubbock a small town as well. Like the where I grew up is just about the same size, and I know that human trafficking has happened in Lubbock because I've been researching this topic for so long. So You can definitely learn the signs, like I've been saying this entire time. Honestly, it doesn't take that long. There's a website that I have up on this thing, and that's from the Homeland Security. It has this entire page of indicators of human trafficking, what to do if you see them, and stuff like that. And like, this doesn't take long to read. Like, that's maybe 5 minutes out of your day, and then maybe it's just kind of in the back of your head. You don't have to study it, memorize it, anything like that. Just kind of be aware. Like, if you see someone out like that, be like, oh, like that something was a little off about that. See something, say something. So the first number I have listed there, the 1866, is the number to report to the Homeland Security, and then the 188 number is to report to the National Human Trafficking Resource Center hotline. Both of those places are where I've gotten most of my information. So next up, I'm going to show you guys the billboards that I did for my project, my PR. So I made some mock ads and billboards that I used. I used stock images just from the internet and Photoshop. Some of these you'll see it'll say like learn the signs at www.htscience.com. This is a fake website I totally made up. There's no website on the internet that has that address, so it's not real. But if it were real, on this human trafficking science website, it would have all the information that's being taught to law enforcement and doctors about what you can try to do to notice and spot a victim. Much like how I talked about how the Homeland Security had a page, it would be something like that. My second one that I made, simply saying like humans are not for sale. This one's pretty obvious. This is my third. I gave the definition, just like I did earlier in my PowerPoint, of human trafficking. Some of these got a little tricky to make, so you can tell some of them are a little better quality than others. It's because Photoshop's not my best thing. This one I made, it's kind of like it's called a human billboard. I know you guys see them on the streets all the time, holding up signs like 40% off, come this way. So I made this little kind of sort of catchy tagline: be bold, say that humans should not be sold. Kind of made it rhyme, so maybe if it was a real billboard, that would stick in people's minds and hopefully start the much needed conversation on human trafficking. And at the bottom, that's the real phone number from the National Human Trafficking Resource Center, like I gave earlier. This one has a quote on it. It says, "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter." That's from Martin Luther King Jr. This was a quote that I read like forever ago. I didn't read it when I was doing any of my research or in my papers, but I think it's something that definitely relates to this topic. Like, we shouldn't be silent about this topic. It needs to be talked about more. This definitely needs to happen. See something, say something. Call the trafficking line. And this is on a highway. And maybe on a highway, a real quote like that wouldn't be put up because, you know, they're driving. You don't want to distract them. But, yeah, that's pretty much it. So, hope you guys learned a little something about human trafficking.